I don't remember the last time I smiled at her. Not a polite smirk, not a forced expression for guests or family dinners. An actual, genuine smile. Maybe that's why she froze when she saw it. Maybe that's why her fingers trembled around the coffee mug, and why her eyes darted to the hallway like she expected someone else to be standing behind me. She thought the smile meant hope. It didn't. It was the kind of smile that comes only after a man accepts a truth he never wanted to face, yet somehow feels liberated by. A calm, unsettling relief that tastes almost sweet on the tongue. And she had no idea what it cost me to wear it. "Why are you smiling like that?" she asked, voice thin, brittle, as if she already feared the answer. I leaned my shoulder against the doorframe, arms crossed loosely, letting the silence stretch just long enough for her to feel the crack open beneath her feet. She shifted her weight, her robe tightening around her body in a way that drew my attention to the curve of her stomach. A curve that shouldn't have been there, a curve I hadn't earned. Finally I said it, soft, almost tender, "Because I finally figured out who got you pregnant, and it wasn't me." She didn't gasp. She didn't faint. She didn't run. She simply blinked slowly, like someone adjusting to sudden darkness. Her lips parted, then closed again, and for a moment she looked like she might deny everything. But denial requires confidence, and she didn't have any left. I watched her throat move as she swallowed. She clutched her robe tighter, but the gesture only emphasized her shape. And I'll admit it, some twisted part of me still felt attraction. Habit, maybe. The echo of the woman I once touched, kissed, wanted. But that echo was fading fast. "What? What are you talking about?" she finally whispered. There it was, the first crack. A tiny fracture, but deep. Her voice wasn't confused. It was afraid. I could have yelled. I could have hurled accusations, demanded explanations, thrown every suspicion at her like blades. But I didn't. Instead, I let myself breathe, slow and steady, and I let the smile linger. A calm man is far more terrifying than an angry one. She didn't know whether I had proof, or if I was bluffing, or if I was already planning my exit. The truth was simple. I had enough to feel certain, but not enough yet to destroy her. That would come later, quietly. "I'm going to take a shower," I said, turning away before she could respond. "We'll talk later." But I had no intention of talking. Not yet. As I walked down the hallway, I felt her eyes burning into my back, desperate, searching for clues. She wanted to know what I knew, how much, when I found out, who told me, whether the lover had said something, whether her own carelessness had finally caught up with her. Her fear hung in the air like static, and the tension was electric, dangerous, almost intoxicating. I closed the bathroom door behind me and stared at myself in the mirror. My smile was still there, only sharper now. Behind it was a hurricane I refused to let her see. Not until the time was right. She thought the worst part was that I knew. She had no idea the real nightmare was that I wasn't reacting. Not yet. People assume the hardest part of betrayal is discovering it. They're wrong. The hardest part is pretending you didn't. After that morning, after the smile she couldn't unsee, I moved through the house like a shadow with a pulse, quiet, controlled, predictable in all the ways that kept her guessing. She expected shouting. She expected chaos. She expected me to demand answers she had rehearsed lies for. Instead, I gave her nothing. Silence is a scalpel. You can carve someone apart with it. She hovered around me that day, watching, waiting for an emotional explosion that never came. When she tried touching my arm, her fingers barely brushed me before I stepped away under the excuse of needing to grab my keys. But even that tiny contact told me everything. Her touch was too light, too cautious, as if afraid I might feel the guilt radiating off her skin. There was a time when that same touch would have pulled me into bed with her, when her perfume, drifting faintly as she passed, would have ignited a spark that led to tangled sheets and breathless sex. Now, the spark was still there. My body remembered her, but my mind treated it like a dangerous chemical reaction, something to observe, not indulge. She didn't speak much. Fear dries out the throat. By afternoon, she was pacing the living room, pretending to scroll her phone, glancing at me every few seconds. She didn't know that every glance confirmed my suspicion. She wasn't worried about losing me. She was terrified of losing control of the narrative. That's when I began. Not confrontation, not discussion, investigation. While she showered, longer than usual, probably crying under the water, I entered her laptop. Her passwords had never changed. She trusted me too much, or assumed I'd never question her. That was her mistake. Phone logs, deleted messages, hotel receipts hidden in a folder titled Taxes, a rideshare trip from a Tuesday she claimed she'd been working late. Nothing explosive yet, nothing undeniable, but enough smoke to infer the fire. Next came the bank statements, small transfers, 87, 120, 64, strange amounts that didn't match any recurring bills. One to a private clinic she had never told me about, and one that made my pulse tighten. A transfer to a man whose name I'd seen once before. Her colleague, the one she swore she barely talked to. Barely, right. As I copied the files to a private drive, I heard her footsteps in the hallway. I closed the laptop and leaned back just as she turned the corner, hair still damp, robe cinched tight around her waist. The way the fabric clung to her made my eyes linger for a moment longer than I intended. And she noticed. Her expression softened in relief, like she thought the sight of her might distract me, turn suspicion into desire. She took a slow step closer, lips parting slightly, an old habit she'd used more than once to lead us toward the bedroom. "Are you hungry?" she asked, voice warm, inviting. "I can make something." She wanted normal. She wanted to reset the air between us. She wanted me inside her head again, not the other way around. I smiled, not the same smile as earlier, but close enough to make her inhale sharply. "I'm good," I said. "Just tired." The way her face fell told me she knew. The old tricks weren't working. That night, when she fell asleep curled tightly to her side of the bed, I stayed awake watching the ceiling, replaying every moment of the last few months, every late meeting, every cold night, every excuse that didn't make sense. But anger didn't rise. Not yet. Only certainty. The evidence was building. Her paranoia was growing. And I hadn't asked a single question. That was the beauty of the silent investigation. When you never confront someone, they can never prepare their lies. Tomorrow she would wake up wondering not what I knew, but how much. And that was when the real unraveling would begin. The first sign of her panic came the next morning. Quiet, almost invisible, but unmistakable once you know what guilt looks like. She woke before me, which never happened. She was already dressed, makeup done, hair styled too carefully for someone who supposedly had no plans that day. When she turned toward me, her smile was brittle, stretched, wrong. "Morning," she said softly. I studied her face. She was trying too hard to seem calm, and the effort made her eyes flicker with tension. She perched on the edge of the bed like she was waiting for a verdict. My silence yesterday had infected her sleep. I could see it in the stiffness of her shoulders, the way her fingers tugged at her sleeve. "Morning," I answered, voice flat, neutral. That neutrality hit her like a slap. She expected anger, accusations, maybe even tears. Neutrality was far worse. It made her wonder what was inside my head. While she made coffee downstairs, I listened to her footsteps. They weren't relaxed. They were light, quick, anxious. Every few seconds she paused, maybe listening for me, maybe rehearsing explanations, maybe imagining scenarios where everything fell apart. When I finally walked into the kitchen, she nearly flinched. "You slept okay?" she asked. "Fine." She nodded too quickly. "Good, good." I took a sip of the coffee she made, extra sugar, the way I used to like it years ago. She was reaching for nostalgia now, weaponizing familiarity, a desperate move. She hovered a few feet away, pretending to straighten things on the counter. I could feel her watching me from the corner of her eye, searching for clues, waiting for another smile, the one that had cracked her world open. I didn't give her one. Instead, I said casually, "I'll be out today. Got a few errands." Her spine stiffened. Errands? Like what? I shrugged. Just things. The vagueness terrified her. She wasn't afraid I'd leave. She was afraid I'd investigate. That's when she started questioning everything, not out loud, but in her behavior. She checked her phone every few minutes, sliding it away from me like it was radioactive. When she thought I wasn't looking, she deleted notifications, cleared her call log, and turned off sync for her messaging apps. It was almost cute how late she was. Her paranoia followed me through the day. When I stepped outside to make a call, one she couldn't overhear, she appeared at the window, pretending to water the plants. When I walked to the mailbox, she wandered out to get some fresh air. At one point, she touched my arm lightly, like she used to before sex, slow, lingering, letting her fingers graze just long enough to spark something. Her body leaned closer, her breath warming my neck. "You've been distant," she whispered, playing innocent. I met her eyes. There was fear behind the softness. Desire, too, but overshadowed by something darker. Panic dressed as affection. "Just thinking," I said. "About what?" I let the question hang in the air. Her breath caught. She was terrified I'd say, "the baby," or "the lover," or "your lies." Instead, I answered, "Life." That single word broke her composure more than any accusation could. She stepped back, arms crossing instinctively over her stomach. The silence stretched between us, thick and suffocating. By the afternoon, her behavior escalated into frantic normalcy. She cooked an elaborate lunch she didn't touch. She cleaned rooms that didn't need cleaning. She laughed too loudly at a joke on TV. She hugged me suddenly, holding on too long. It was like watching someone try to keep water from spilling out of a cracked glass. When night came, she slipped into lingerie she hadn't worn in months. Black lace, low-cut, the kind she knew used to pull heat straight through me. She stood in the doorway, body outlined softly by the hall light, trying to look confident, but her hands trembled as she touched the frame. "Come to bed?" she asked. The problem was, she still looked beautiful, familiar enough to stir something in me. Her curves, the arch of her hips, the way the fabric clung to her skin, it all reminded me of better times, of nights when trust still existed between us. But desire wasn't enough to blind me anymore. "I'm not tired," I said. Her eyes widened, glassy with shock. She hadn't expected that. The rejection cut her deeper than yelling ever could. She stepped back slowly, defeated, turning toward the bedroom with a stiffness that betrayed her fear. She didn't cry. She was past tears. What she felt now was dread. My silence was working. The paranoia was blooming. She had no idea what I had found. No idea what I would find next. No idea when the next smile would come. But she knew one thing for sure. Whatever I was planning had already begun. The next morning, she woke before sunrise. I heard her moving around the kitchen, opening drawers and closing them quietly, as if the sound of anything breaking might push me into a conversation she wasn't ready to have. She tiptoed around the house like a burglar in her own home. Her panic had matured overnight. I took my time getting up. Let her stew. Let her imagine. Let her wonder if I had packed a bag, contacted a lawyer, or already spoken to someone she feared more than me, the real father. By the time I walked downstairs, she was hovering near the counter, holding her phone so tightly her knuckles were white. When she saw me, her posture straightened, the mask sliding onto her face a half-second too late. "Morning," she said. "Morning." Her eyes followed me as I poured coffee, and for a moment I felt the heat of her stare travel down my back, searching for clues in my movements. Guilt has a way of sharpening attention. She wasn't just afraid of being discovered anymore. She was afraid I had already taken action. And she was right. Later that day, when she left for a doctor's appointment, the one she scheduled only after my smile cracked her composure, I sat at my desk with my laptop open, several tabs arranged in front of me. Her lover's real life sat on the screen, his address, his relationship status, his social media, and most importantly, his girlfriend, a woman who had no idea what was happening behind her back. I crafted the message slowly, carefully, not vindictive, not emotional, just factual. A folder of screenshots, location data, hotel receipts, a picture of my wife entering his car on a late work night. No commentary, no insults, no threats, just truth. Truth is the most effective weapon, clean, sharp, impossible to discredit when delivered with precision. When I hit send, I didn't feel relief. I didn't feel anger. What I felt was control. The calm kind that settles into your bones. The kind a betrayed man gains when he stops reacting and starts directing. An hour later, her lover called her. I didn't need to hear the words. I didn't need to see the messages. Her voice gave everything away. She stepped out onto the patio, trying to keep her tone low, but panic isn't something you can fully contain. What do you mean someone sent it to her? No, it's nothing. They're lying. I told you it's not serious. Stop yelling. Don't do this. Don't leave me right now, please. The last word, please, hit me harder than anything else. Not because I felt sympathy, because it confirmed how deep she'd gotten with him. She wasn't just cheating. She was emotionally invested. She came back inside moments later, shoulders shaking subtly, mascara smudged beneath her eyes. She froze when she saw me sitting at the table. For a heartbeat, her expression looked raw, almost naked. Fear, shame, anger, all tangled together. You heard? She asked weakly. I sipped my coffee. He break up with you? Her eyes widened. Why would you say that? You look like someone who just lost something. She swallowed hard. I didn't. It's not. But she couldn't finish the sentence. She didn't know which version of the lie to commit to. The affair she wasn't supposed to have? The pregnancy she couldn't explain? Or the man she just begged not to leave her? She sank into the chair across from me, fingers trembling as she brushed her hair behind her ear. A small gesture, but revealing. She used to do that when she wanted my attention, especially before sex. An unconscious lure. Now the gesture was filled with desperation, not seduction. He's just stressed, she whispered. Things will calm down. I raised an eyebrow. You sure about that? She flinched, her gaze dropping to the table. The beauty of this moment wasn't that she suspected I was involved. It was that she couldn't ask. Asking would require admitting too much. Hours later, her lover blocked her. I knew the moment it happened. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at the screen, and her entire body went rigid. She stared at it for almost a full minute, as if disbelief alone could undo the damage. When she finally looked at me, her eyes were wet but hard, full of resentment and fear. Did you do something? She whispered. I held her gaze calmly, expression unreadable. Why would I said. Her lips parted, but she didn't accuse me. She couldn't. If she said too much, she'd expose everything. Instead, she stood abruptly and walked into the other room. I could hear her sobbing quietly, not loudly enough to draw attention, but enough to release some of the pressure building inside her. Her world was collapsing. Her lover was gone. Her secret was cracking, and she was more alone than she had ever been. But this was only the beginning. She didn't know how much I knew. She didn't know what I'd found. And the real trap hadn't even been sprung yet. There's a particular silence that settles over a house after someone's world collapses. It feels heavier, almost humid, as if every room absorbs the grief and breathes it back out. That's what our home became after her lover blocked her. A slow suffocation she couldn't escape. She barely slept that night. I could feel her shifting beside me, turning over every few minutes, pulling the blanket, then pushing it away. Her breathing stuttered each time her mind circled back to him. I didn't touch her, didn't speak, didn't even pretend to be asleep. I just watched the ceiling and listened to her unravel. By morning, she looked hollow, eyes swollen, hands shaking, movements uncoordinated, as if her body no longer listened to her mind. When she walked into the kitchen, she didn't bother hiding it. "He blocked me," she said flatly. I didn't react right away. I took my time pouring coffee, feeling her stare carve into my back. When I finally turned toward her, her expression flickered with something desperate, like she wanted comfort but knew she didn't deserve any. "I'm sorry," I said quietly. It was the first sympathy she'd heard from me in days. She blinked fast, as if she didn't trust the softness of my voice. "You don't sound surprised." I shrugged. "People leave. It happens." Her lips trembled. "Not like this." I didn't answer. I didn't need to. Her isolation was already rooting itself deep inside her. The lover was gone. I was distant. And the pregnancy, the secret that once thrilled her, the fantasy of escaping into someone else's arms, now felt like a chain she forged herself. She sank into a chair, clutching her mug with both hands like it was the only warm thing left in her life. She looked so small, so fragile, that for a moment a strange instinct tugged at me. Some leftover piece of affection, or maybe just the memory of it. But memories aren't enough to fix betrayal. Later, she tried messaging him again. I watched from across the room as her thumbs hovered above the screen, typing, deleting, typing again. Her reflection in the window showed a woman drowning in regret. "No, please. Can we talk? Just once. Please don't do this to me." She hit send. The message never delivered. That's when she broke. Not dramatically. Not with screaming. She just slowly crumpled in on herself, shoulders folding forward, breath shaking like she was trying to keep the tears quiet. She didn't want me to see her cry, but it didn't matter. I'd been watching her crumble since the moment I said, "I know you're pregnant, and it's not mine." She wiped her face quickly when I approached the living room. She tried to stand tall, to act normal, but her voice betrayed the truth. "Do you think he told someone?" she whispered. "Is that why he's doing this?" I shook my head. "I don't know his life." She stared at me, searching my face for something. Comfort, reassurance, maybe even rage. Something real, something familiar. But I offered her nothing more than a calm distance. The kind of distance that forces a person to sit in their own mistakes. Hours passed. She cleaned rooms that were already spotless. She started laundry she didn't need to start. She reorganized drawers. She walked up and down the hallway with no real purpose. Isolation makes people restless. Isolation makes them see ghosts in their own shadows. At one point, she approached me while I was on the couch. Her voice trembled. "Can we talk tonight? Just talk?" Her hand brushed my shoulder, a gentle, tentative touch, the same way she used to touch me before sex, testing whether I'd pull her closer. This time, I didn't. "We'll see," I said. Her breath caught. The rejection wasn't loud, but it was deep. She withdrew her hand, folding her arms around herself as if shielding her body from cold wind. By evening, the silence between us felt thick enough to choke on. She sat beside me on the sofa, a few inches closer than necessary. Not touching, but close enough that her warmth reached my skin. I felt her body lean subtly, instinctively, as if hoping contact alone might tether her to something stable. "Are you mad at me?" she whispered. I turned my head slowly. Her eyes glistened with a mix of fear and longing. Fear of losing everything. Longing for the version of me who would have kissed those tears away. "No," I said. "I'm just thinking." "About what?" I let the question hang in the air before answering. "About us." Her breath shook. "Please, don't give up on this. On me." She didn't realize it yet, but the moment she said those words, the balance of power shifted completely. She wasn't the one choosing anymore. She wasn't juggling men. She wasn't in control. She was alone. Exactly where she feared being most. Isolation had finally done its job, but the real unraveling, the part she could never predict, was still ahead. It happened in the evening, when the house was too quiet and her nerves were stretched thin enough to snap. She'd spent the whole day pretending to be composed, cooking, cleaning, folding laundry as if performing domestic normalcy could erase the fracture between us. But her mask had cracks, and I knew it was only a matter of time before it broke completely. I was in the living room, pretending to scroll through something meaningless on my phone, when she finally approached. Her steps were slow, almost hesitant, and when she sat beside me, she didn't bother keeping any distance this time. Her thigh brushed mine, lightly, deliberately. "Can we talk now?" she whispered. Her voice wasn't steady. It trembled just enough to betray the fear she'd tried to hide all day. I didn't look at her immediately. I let the silence sit between us, heavy and suffocating, forcing her to feel every second of uncertainty. When I finally turned to meet her eyes, she exhaled shakily, as if she'd been holding her breath waiting for acknowledgement. "What do you want to talk about?" I asked. She blinked fast. "Us. I feel like you're slipping away." I raised an eyebrow. "Am I?" Her lips parted, but no sound came out. She looked lost, like someone trying to navigate a maze with no walls, only fear as guidance. "I know I haven't been perfect," she said softly. A ridiculous understatement. "But I still want this. I still want you." Her hand lifted slowly, hesitating before touching my forearm. That familiar warmth, the softness of her skin, the gentle pressure, brought back memories of nights when that same touch would have pulled me into her without question. Even now, my body reacted, a quiet, involuntary response she counted on. But desire isn't trust, and trust was long dead. "You've been distant," she continued. "Cold. I don't know what you're thinking anymore." "You don't?" I asked. She sucked in a breath, eyes widening just slightly at my tone. It wasn't angry. It wasn't loud. It was calm. Too calm. The calm of a man who already knows the truth and doesn't need her version anymore. "I know you're upset," she tried again. "But I want to fix things. I need to fix things." I tilted my head. "Fix what?" Her composure cracked. Her lips trembled, and her gaze broke away from mine. She stared at her hands like they might tell her what to say next. "I made mistakes," she whispered. "Which ones?" Her breath faltered. She wasn't prepared for direct questions, not from me, not from a man who hadn't confronted her until now. She swallowed hard, trying to piece together a safe confession. I haven't been emotionally present. I know that. I pushed you away. I'm sorry." That was her apology? That was her idea of honesty? I stared at her, letting the silence press down on her shoulders until she visibly sagged under the weight. "That's all?" I asked quietly. A tear slipped down her cheek. "No," she whispered, "but I don't know how to say the rest yet." There it was. Not a confession, a plea for reassurance, a hope that I would soften, pull her close, kiss her forehead, tell her we'd work through it. Instead, I leaned back, creating a small space between us. Her body followed instinctively, as if closing that space might pull me back emotionally too. The scent of her perfume drifted closer, faint, familiar, tied to 1,000 moments between us. Even now it stirred something tight in my chest, but I kept my voice steady. "When you're ready to tell me the truth," I said, "I'll listen." Her breath hitched. She reached out again, curling her fingers lightly around my wrist. "I don't want to lose you." The irony was almost poetic. She was only realizing the value of what she had after putting it in jeopardy. Her fear was real, raw, and quietly desperate. And for the first time since everything started, her mask slipped completely. No performance, no manipulation, just fear. "I don't want this to end," she whispered, leaning closer. Her lips hovered near my shoulder, breath warm against my skin. "Can you at least tell me what you're feeling?" I looked at her for a long moment, at the fear in her eyes, the trembling vulnerability, the way her body leaned into mine out of instinct rather than seduction. I'm thinking, I said, about what comes next. Her face crumpled slightly, a flicker of panic she couldn't hide. Next? What does that mean? You'll tell me, I replied. Eventually. She exhaled shakily, defeated. She didn't move away, though. Instead, she leaned her head gently against my shoulder, a fragile, trembling gesture that reminded me of how things used to be, how she used to curl into me after long days, how we used to fit. But this closeness wasn't comfort. It was fear trying to disguise itself as affection, and she knew I saw right through it. Tonight, the mask slipped. Tomorrow, it might fall apart completely, and that was exactly what I needed. There's a particular kind of quiet that only comes before the truth breaks through. Heavy, almost electric, like the air before a storm. That's what the house felt like the next morning. She moved softly, cautiously, as if every sound she made might trigger the truth she'd been trying to bury deeper and deeper. She didn't know that the truth had already found me. I sat at the kitchen table, scrolling through documents I shouldn't have had access to, clinic bills, appointment reminders, encrypted emails she thought she had deleted. One in particular made my chest tighten. A name. Not the lover I knew about. A different man. A second one. I leaned back in my chair, letting the realization settle. Betrayal is one thing. Multiplying it is another. And the worst part? This second man wasn't someone she'd confessed to even in the slightest ways her behavior hinted at. He wasn't someone she fought with over text. He wasn't someone she panicked about when blocked. He was someone she thought I would never find. When she finally entered the kitchen, her hair was still damp from the shower, her robe tied loosely around her waist. Her eyes were puffy, tired, afraid. But she tried. God, she still tried to smile. "Morning," she said softly. I studied her, the trembling attempt at normalcy, the way she pulled the robe tighter when she noticed my eyes lingering on her. There was still attraction tangled in the mess, some stubborn physical instinct, but it was distant, almost muted by everything I now knew. "Morning," I replied. She poured herself tea, hands shaking just enough for me to notice. She sat across from me, her eyes scanning my face like she was trying to read a sentence I refused to say aloud. "I've been thinking," she began, voice barely above a whisper. "About what?" I asked. "Everything." She swallowed hard. "And I want to tell you the truth. I just don't know where to start." I nodded slowly. "Start anywhere." She took a shaky breath, twisting her fingers together in her lap. "The man I talked to, the one I shouldn't have, it wasn't serious. A lie. A soft, trembling lie. And it's over now," she added. "I ended it." I tilted my head. "He blocked you. That's not the same as ending it." Her breath hitched, a tiny sound of panic, caught again. I want things to go back to normal," she whispered. "I swear I'll do anything. Anything." The word lingered. I leaned forward slightly, studying her eyes, wet, desperate, hopeful. "Are you sure there's only one man I should know about?" Her heart nearly stopped. I watched the exact moment it happened. Her lips parted, no sound escaping. Her eyes widened just enough to betray her. Her fingers froze mid-twist. A confession isn't just spoken. Sometimes it shows itself in silence. She swallowed. "I don't know what you mean." She knew exactly what I meant. "Maybe I should be more specific," I said calmly. "The clinic, the private appointments, the messages from months before your first late work night." Her face drained of color. Her grip tightened on her robe. Her breath came shallow and quick. "That wasn't," she started, but the sentence fell apart. "Telling half the truth isn't telling the truth," I said. She shook her head fast, almost violently, the tears spilling before she could stop them. "I didn't mean for any of it to happen. I swear. I was lonely. I was confused. I was stupid." "That's not an explanation," I replied. Her voice cracked. "I didn't think you cared anymore." There it was, the classic reversal. Blame turned into justification. Justification turned into victimhood. Betrayers always reach for the same script. I stood slowly, and she instinctively mirrored me, as if afraid of being physically below me during this moment. Her hand reached out, shaking, touching my chest lightly, too lightly, for connection, as if she feared I'd recoil. "I made mistakes," she whispered again, "but I never wanted to hurt you." "You didn't just hurt me," I said. "You lied to yourself long enough to believe your own story." She broke then, truly broke. Tears streamed freely, her shoulders shaking violently as she tried to speak. But no words came. She kept reaching for me, hands desperate against my shirt, her body trembling inches from mine. And even through the betrayal, even through the truth burning like ice in my chest, I felt the pull of her, the warmth of her skin, the scent of her perfume, the memory of nights where she clung to me for entirely different reasons. But desire doesn't erase deception. "What do you want me to say?" she choked out. "That there was someone else? That I made the worst decisions of my life? That I didn't think about consequences? Fine, I'll say it. But I need you. Please. I need you not to give up on us." Her confession was messy, incomplete, but enough. 2 lovers, not one. And the worst part? She had no idea which one the baby belonged to. But I knew one thing. This moment, this raw collapse, was exactly the leverage I needed for what came next. Her mask had slipped. Her truth had cracked. Now it was time to break her illusion of control entirely. There comes a moment in every betrayal when the power finally shifts. Not gradually, not subtly, but all at once, like a bridge collapsing beneath the person who thought they were safely crossing. That moment arrived the next morning. She woke before me again, though this time not out of panic, but out of exhaustion. Her eyes were swollen from crying, her movements slow, mechanical. She stayed close to me as I got ready, hovering like someone afraid of being left behind. Every gesture she made felt like a silent apology. But apologies don't rebuild what's already burned. She followed me into the kitchen, barefoot, wearing one of my shirts instead of her robe, something she hadn't done in months. A small attempt to feel connected again. Her fingers brushed the counter nervously as she watched me pour coffee. "Can we talk more today?" she asked softly. "We talked yesterday," I replied without looking at her. "Not enough." I turned then, meeting her eyes. She looked fragile, raw, no lies left to hide behind. For a moment, a part of me remembered how she used to look early in our relationship when she'd cling to me after rough days, seeking comfort. But now, that softness came from fear, not love. "What do you want to talk about?" I asked. She swallowed. "Us, the baby, everything." I took a slow sip of coffee. "What about the baby?" Her breath caught. She wasn't ready for directness, but she forced herself to answer. "I want to raise it with you," she whispered. "I know I messed up. I know I broke everything. But I want to fix it. I want you to stay." I studied her for a long moment. She looked like someone pleading for life. Not love. Life. "And why should I consider that?" I asked calmly. The question broke her composure again. Tears welled instantly, her hands trembling as she reached out, touching my arm lightly. "Because I can't do this alone. Because I still love you. Because I want us back. I'll do anything. Just don't leave me." Anything. There it was again. A dangerous word in the hands of someone desperate. I set my mug down and stepped just a little closer. Her breath caught. She wasn't expecting proximity. Her body reacted instinctively. Her hand slid to my chest, her fingers curling slightly into the fabric of my shirt, a gesture halfway between affection and panic. "I'll stay," I said softly. Her gasp was immediate, hope flaring in her eyes like a match struck in the dark. "You will?" she whispered, stepping even closer. "But only under certain conditions." Her body went still. "What conditions?" I walked past her, letting her follow, letting anticipation twist inside her until she couldn't bear the silence. I sat at the table and gestured for her to sit. She obeyed instantly. "First," I began, "the house goes to me." She blinked. "What? You want me to stay? You signed the deed over." She stared, stunned. Her mind was racing, trying to reconcile love with leverage. I didn't let her breathe. "Second," I continued, "both cars go in my name." Her hands tightened around each other. "Why would you—" "Because I need security. Something real. Something you can't twist with words." She swallowed hard. "And the third?" "The savings," I said. "All accounts, joint and personal. You transfer them." Her breath stuttered. "That's everything." "No," I corrected. "It's the cost of me pretending the baby is mine." Her eyes widened, glossing with panic. Her lips parted, but no words came. She looked like someone who'd been struck across the face, shocked, speechless, unable to form resistance. "And your reputation," I added quietly. "I don't destroy it. I don't tell your family. I don't expose you publicly. That stays intact, if you agree." She was trembling now. Her voice barely held together when she spoke. "You're asking me to give up everything." "Yes," I said, "if you want me to stay." A long silence stretched between us. She looked at me, really looked. And in that moment she understood. This wasn't revenge. It was reclamation. It was balance restored. It was the price for betrayal. Her tears spilled silently. She didn't wipe them. She just nodded, once, broken. "I'll do it," she whispered. "I'll sign whatever you want." I nodded slowly. "Good. I'll have the papers ready." She leaned forward then, desperate for some sign of affection, her hand sliding from my wrist to my chest again, her body angling closer, lips barely parting as if she wanted me to kiss her, validate her choice, reassure her that she wasn't losing me completely. But I didn't move. I let her feel the distance even while she touched me. She exhaled shakily, her forehead resting against my chest for a moment, her entire body trembling with relief, grief, fear, all tangled together. She thought she had saved us. She thought she had secured a future. She thought the worst was behind her. But she didn't know the truth. This wasn't reconciliation. This wasn't forgiveness. This was the setup for the final cut. She signed away everything. And she didn't yet understand. I had no intention of staying. People imagine betrayal ends in an explosion, shouting, slamming doors, broken glass. But sometimes it ends quietly, almost politely, like a final exhale before a long overdue death. That's how it felt the day the papers were signed. She sat across from me at the dining table, hands trembling as she held the pen. Her signature dragged across page after page, house deed, vehicle transfers, bank authorizations. Each stroke of ink was another piece of her life leaving her hands forever. She didn't cry this time. She cried everything out days ago. Now she only looked numb. And the worst part? She still thought this was the beginning of our healing. When she signed the last page, she looked up with a fragile smile, small, hopeful, completely unaware of the truth building inside me. "There," she whispered. "It's done. We can move forward now." Forward. She still believed there was a we. I collected the documents quietly, slipping each page into the folder I'd prepared. She watched me, waiting for some sign of warmth, a touch, a soft word, anything to reward her sacrifice. But I gave her nothing. Emotional starvation had become the language between us, and she understood it perfectly now. "Is that all?" she asked, voice trembling. "For now," I said. The way her face fell almost made me feel something. Pity, maybe. But pity doesn't rebuild trust. Pity doesn't erase the memory of her whispering to another man in the dark. Pity doesn't change the fact she didn't even know who the father was. The silence stretched, brittle and sharp. She reached for me suddenly, her fingers brushing my wrist. "I meant what I said. I want us. I want to fix everything. Please, just stay with me tonight." Her touch still carried heat, real, familiar heat. For a moment I felt the ghost of old instincts tug at me, the memory of how she used to press against me in moments like this. She leaned in, her lips hovering dangerously close to my shoulder, breath warm against my skin. But desire without trust is a hollow thing. I stepped back. Her breath hitched like she'd been struck. "Why are you pulling away?" she whispered. "You know why?" She shook her head, tears welling. "No, I signed everything. I'm trying. I'm doing everything you asked." "You gave me things," I said calmly. "Not the truth." Her face cracked open, fear, grief, desperation bleeding together. "I told you I made mistakes." "Not enough," I said. "Not even close." A tear slid down her cheek. "I don't know what else you want from me." I opened the folder slowly, tapping the edge of the papers against the table to straighten them. "I want you to stand on your own," I said. She frowned, confused. "What does that mean?" "It means," I said, "I'm leaving." The word leaving shattered her. She stumbled back as if her legs gave out. Her hand clutched the table for balance. "No, no, you said you'd stay if I signed." "I said I'd pretend," I corrected quietly. "You misunderstood the difference." Her eyes widened, tears spilling freely now. "You lied to me." "No," I said. "I let you lie to yourself." Her sob was small but sharp, like something cracking inside her chest. "You can't do this. I can't do this without you. I can't raise a baby alone. I can't." "You're not alone," I said. "You have two possible fathers." Her knees buckled. She sank into the nearest chair, hands covering her mouth as sobs spilled out of her. "Please don't go. Please. I'll do anything." "You already did," I replied. I walked past her slowly. My bag was already packed, quietly, discreetly, over the last few days. When I picked it up, she reached out weakly, fingertips brushing the air near my arm, like she was trying to catch a ghost. "Don't leave me," she whispered. "Not like this." I looked at her, really looked. The woman who once held all my trust, all my love, reduced to a trembling, broken figure clinging to the illusion of a future she destroyed herself. "You'll survive," I said. "Will you come back?" she asked, voice shattering. "No." Her body collapsed forward, hands dropping to her lap, sobs tearing through her. I didn't comfort her. I didn't kneel beside her. I didn't touch her hair or brush away her tears like I used to when she cried in my arms. That man was gone. I walked to the door, hand on the handle, heart steady, mind clear. Before I stepped outside, she choked out one last question. Why are you doing this to me?" I turned slightly, just enough to meet her eyes. "I'm not doing anything to you," I said. "I'm just finally choosing myself." The door clicked behind me. No slam, no dramatic exit. Just a quiet, final ending. She lost the house. She lost the cars. She lost the money. She lost me. All she had left was the baby, and she still didn't know the final truth waiting to break her completely. I didn't return to the house after I walked out. Not once. Not even to grab a forgotten shirt or check the mailbox. When a man leaves quietly, truly quietly, he leaves with everything he needs. In the weeks that followed, her messages became a pattern of grief. Day 1, "Please come home." Day 4, "We can fix this. I can fix this." Day 10, "I'm scared. I need you." Day 17, "Please, I'm not okay." Day 23, "Tell me what to do. I'll do anything." I read them but never responded. Distance was the truest punishment. Not loud, not cruel, just final. And then the messages changed. Around the 6th week, she wrote, "I need to tell you something about the baby. Please." I ignored it. I thought it was another attempt to pull sympathy out of me. But the 7th week, she sent a picture, a medical form, a DNA prenatal test. The words were blurred through her shaking hand in the photo, but the ones I needed were clear. Biological mother, inconclusive. That was the moment her entire world collapsed for the second time. She didn't understand the result. Of course she didn't. She assumed something went wrong with the lab. But I already knew better. I knew because I had seen the emails she tried to delete months ago. The ones from a private fertility center she secretly visited. The ones she hid at the beginning, back when she still believed she could control everything. She thought she could use IVF to time her pregnancy, to hide her affairs behind a clinical shield. She thought a medical process would protect her from suspicion. She didn't realize the clinic had made a catastrophic mistake long before I discovered what she'd done. She didn't know that her egg wasn't the one used. She didn't know the embryo implanted wasn't genetically hers. She didn't know the clinic flagged her case but never reached her because she changed her number. She didn't know that I learned the truth before she ever suspected the affair was exposed. She didn't know that the baby she carried wasn't mine, wasn't her lover's, wasn't her second lover's, wasn't hers. The baby belonged to strangers. She had been carrying the wrong life the entire time. When I finally answered one of her messages, it wasn't a conversation. It was a single line. I know. 10 minutes later, she called. 20 missed calls. 40. Then a video call request. I didn't answer any. Her final message came hours later. Did you know before the breakup? I stared at the screen for a long moment before replying. Yes. There was no response after that. Just silence. The kind that feels like snow falling inside a dead city. I heard from a mutual friend months later. Not intentionally. Just one of those casual conversations where people mention something secondhand without realizing the weight of it. She moved out of state, the friend said. Couldn't stay in the house after everything that happened. Of course she couldn't. It wasn't hers anymore. She had the baby, the friend added. But she doesn't talk about it. Ever. I think it breaks her. I didn't respond. There was nothing to say. I wasn't cruel to her. I didn't expose her to the world. I didn't tell her family or destroy her name. I just left when she expected forgiveness. I just walked away when she reached for stability. I just refused to carry a lie that wasn't mine. Sometimes the cleanest revenge is truth, not rage, not destruction. Just truth allowed to breathe out in the open until it ruins the person who built their world on deception. Months later, as I stood in my new apartment, finalizing some papers for work, my phone buzzed with one last message from her. No hello, no begging, no anger. Just a single question. Why did you smile that morning? I stared at the message, then typed slowly. Because I already knew how it would end. I didn't send anything else. I didn't block her. She blocked herself with silence. As I placed my phone down, I caught my reflection in the window, calm, steady, unburdened. The same smile she saw that morning returned. Quiet, controlled, final.